This wasn't an accident.
The Simpsons predicted the future.
The Simpsons knew this would happen.
How did The Simpsons predict this?
The Simpsons predicted so many real-world events, right? So like presidents, tech trends, cultural moments. How did this actually happen?
My interest might be a bit of a bummer.
37 years on a single show is really incredible. What do you think is the one rule of writing that helped The Simpsons stay fresh for decades?
It's a rule. I'll go back to this idea of an environment for creativity. What is the best joke? What is the best camera angle? What is the best timing to get the best ultimate show?
How do you hook an audience in the first 10 seconds of an episode?
I think the way you always hook an audience, as much as I work in comedy and I feel like sort of that's one of my greatest toolboxes, it's just always about emotion and characters. Like you'll see a TV commercial sometimes that's 15 seconds long and you might be tearing up. And somebody has done something in that short amount of time to connect with the audience in some way. And I contend that connections like that are always based on emotion. That's why I'm there. I'm a bad idea machine. Just rat-tat-tat-tat-tat.
Welcome to the show. Today we have someone who shaped some of the greatest pieces of television history. Joel Cohn is an Emmy-winning writer of The Simpsons for over 37 years. He's helped shape episodes, characters and jokes that generations grew up with, including myself, and he brings a rare mix of creativity and business wisdom to everything he does. In the next 30 minutes or so, we're going inside The Simpsons writer's room, the truth behind the show's real-world predictions, and the storytelling rules that kept the longest-running show in TV history fresh. So let's get into it. Hey, Joel, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so thrilled to be here.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. So, Joel, take us into a normal day in The Simpsons writer's room. What does creative chaos actually look like?
Well, it's funny because on top of sort of creative chaos, we also have logistical chaos. The show, as some people know and many don't, and the ones that don't are about to learn, each episode takes 9 months to make. So if you just drop a pin in any day, like for example today, we are going to be just starting some episodes that won't even be on TV for 9 months or a year, or just finishing some episodes that are going to be on TV in 2 days. And we're in every stage of production of 15 other episodes, recording actors, looking at animation, rewriting things. So, I mean, I'll say no day is typical, but the fact is this is our typical day every day, that there's just sort of logistical chaos. And then inside of that, of course, we have what you described as very accurately as creative chaos, where we're just trying to figure out what is the best joke, what is the best camera angle, what is the best timing, what is the best recording of a line from one of our actors to get the best ultimate show. So we're arguing with each other, fighting and screaming and eating Dorito chips in the middle.
I love it. Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
So with all that, Joel, what is the process of turning a not so great idea into a winning joke?
When you say not so great, you mean my ideas. I get it, Rachel. I understand.
Not necessarily, Joel.
No, I read code. I know what we're talking about. You know, I always say, and I always talk about how there's no such thing as a bad idea, because the great thing about bad ideas, I always say, is they're sort of twofold. That one is that it's sort of when someone says something that others or somebody deems as a bad idea, just them saying it kind of is a great test or reminder of this environment that everybody should be free to say whatever they like. So it's kind of a nice reinforcement of this creative environment. And then the other thing is about every idea always has a nugget inside of it that might inspire somebody else to build on that. And with the momentum, you always get from, let's say, what we call a bad idea to a place that everyone kind of agrees is a good idea. So really, it's just picking apart and taking advantage of even the momentum that thought, whatever it was, gave us, and then trying to spin it or build on it to get to somewhere great.
Interesting. So it could actually work. Once you have the bad idea, maybe, I say the bad idea, keep it in a little book somewhere, and then you can come back to it again at a later date.
That's why I'm there. I'm a bad idea machine. Just rat-tat-tat-tat-tat.
So, Joel, do you remember a moment in the writer's room that surprised you or taught you something earlier on?
I always sometimes point to this. My very, very first day, I came in and we were doing what we call a color rewrite, which is the last chance to rewrite anything that goes on TV. It's in color and it's beautifully animated. Right. And we watched an episode that was called Behind the Laughter, which went on to win the Emmy. But it's one of my favorite episodes for this story, and also just because it's a great episode. But I watched it in awe. I was like, this is so good. This is so good. And then we go back after the screening to our writer's room where it's just the writers. And there's 45 comments on how to make it even better. And it just really taught me this idea that great isn't good enough sometimes, and that you can always sort of make tweaks and adjustments, and you can over tweak, of course, as well. But For me, it was just eye-opening to the process The Simpsons uses because it was my first day, that
Oh,
as
wow.
good as something is, you can always polish a diamond to make it shine even brighter, and I always think about just, "That was amazing," and then 10 people saying, "Yeah, it was amazing, but," and it could be even more. It was really
Great for the
instrumental. Yeah.
great for the ego, huh?
Well, I mean, it taught you just don't be precious because the beauty of a team is that it always is gonna make it better than what you thought it was. They can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a very good point. So, 37 years on a single show is really incredible. What do you think is the one rule of writing that helped The Simpsons stay fresh for decades?
It's a rule. I'm not sure if it's a writing rule, but I'll go back to this idea of an environment for creativity for many reasons, which I talk about often. But the show is really in this creative bubble. Jim Brooks, who's our super executive producer, told Fox, where we are on the US, they can have nothing to do with the show if we're making it, and they don't really meddle or get in, or interfere at all. And as a result, the creative choices are made just by the writers and, of course, by Jim and Matt Groening. But we are not subject to all the nitpicking and weighing in and overthinking and analysis by people outside of the vibe of the show. So the rule is just to create this amazing creative environment and
Hmm.
then let the people inside of it do their thing, of course, with
Okay.
an eye to the market and everything else. But really, the best creativity comes without the influence and the meddling and the nitpicking and second and third
Yeah.
thinking of everything.
Right, right. Very interesting. Very interesting. So, today's world is obsessed with attention spans. When you were writing, did you think about that consciously?
I'm sorry, I nodded off in the middle of the question. No, we are always thinking about it. The Simpsons, in a way, it's funny because we created a pace of comedy, I believe, and people are welcome to write me and tell me I'm full of baloney, but I think we created this pace of jokes and a version of jokes that never let even the shortest attention span would be captivated because it was always something fresh and new and a twist on everything. I think that I'm going to say the Simpsons created that, and then that
Huh.
has created a generation that has then embraced that, and now that's sort of that vibe or that style or that pace is everywhere in comedy, and it's not just the Simpsons, but Simpsons were a big part of it. So
Mhm.
I think we're aware of attention span, but the truth be told, as I think a lot of great entertainment shows us, and I'll point to shows like Breaking Bad or Severance, if a show is great or if the entertainment or content is captivating, the attention span expands to stay with it. You just make great stuff and don't worry about attention spans would be my answer.
That's really good. That's interesting. Both shows are
Yes.
amazing as well. How do you hook an audience then in the first 10 seconds of an episode?
I think the way you always hook an audience, as much as I work in comedy and I feel like sort of that's one of my greatest toolboxes,
Yeah, yeah.
it's just always about emotion and characters. Like you'll see a TV commercial sometimes that's 15 seconds long and you might be tearing up. And somebody has done something in that short amount of time to connect with the audience in some way. And I contend that connections like that are always based on emotion. You know,
Mm,
jokes are great and a great joke will make somebody laugh, but somehow if you just register with them on an emotional level, I think
yeah.
you've made a connection and then that with the character or whatever, but that really holds their attention going forward.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, something we have to talk about is The Simpsons predicted so many real world events, right? So, like presidents, tech trends, cultural moments. How did this actually happen? Was it luck, research, or something else? Or how did you go about it?
My interest might be a bit of a bummer, but maybe it isn't. I don't know. Who am I to judge how people feel about my answer? Um, I always say the sad answer. Well, first of all, there's been some cases of just genuine 100% luck. Um,
Okay.
without referencing anyone's political beliefs. We had a joke once where we referenced President Trump, and that was in the year 2000, way before he even thought about it. And the reason the writer wrote that joke is he literally thought, "Who is the dumbest person that could ever be president?" So he made that joke, and then I'll let people judge whether that was a prediction or not.
Okay.
But what often happens is we report on something that's happened. Like we had a joke about a virus that originated in Asia. And at the time, it was a joke about SARS, if people remember SARS or the bird
Mm-hmm.
flu.
Yeah.
The problem or the truth is the world goes in cycles so that when COVID came around, people looked at that joke about a virus that began in Asia and they're like, oh my God, they predicted COVID. Well, really, we were behind the news, but by the show being on so long, we're always ahead of the news because the world moves in a cycle. So
Right.
I didn't burst anyone's bubbles and make them think that there's a bunch of oracles or geniuses because it is nothing but a bunch of uh, fast food swilling morons in that room. So we just get lucky or reporters. That's it.
Very good. Was there any particular prediction that surprised even yourself?
We've had some. It's just crazy coincidence, like sports scores or the teams in the World Cup final, which is always
Yeah.
is really, I don't think that drastic a prediction because realistically, often it's down to what 6 or 7 countries that are going to be in the World Cup final. But I think it's just odd when we're lucky. It's just shocking that we're lucky. But as I always point out, people always talk about the, let's say, 45 times we've been right. No one ever talks about the 45 million times we've been wrong. So, I mean, if you just talk nonstop like I'm doing now, eventually something you say will seem wise down the road. Yes.
Perfect.
Yes. Just don't
So
shut up. That's my advice. Keep
just
talking.
keep going, keep
Keep
talking,
talking.
don't stop,
Yes.
don't
Yes,
stop.
exactly.
So, excuse me, what makes a joke timeless versus temporary?
Well, I mentioned a little bit earlier that it takes 9 months for us to make an episode of the show. So we are aware
Yeah.
that, let's say we make a joke about, I'm just talking about an event that's in the news, the U.S. seizing a tanker off of the coast of Venezuela. We all remember that today. We'll probably remember that maybe in 3 or 4 days, but we're not going to remember that 9 months from now, unless, of course, something happens. But so we don't make jokes that are really set in time. We just try to make jokes that are character based, or in a way, they're making fun of things like AI, which is a much bigger issue that's going to be around forever. So we really are cautious about making jokes that are not going to stand the test of time. So they become timeless by avoiding being current. How about that?
Gotcha. Understand. Yeah, and that makes
Yeah.
sense actually. And was there an episode, or what episode or joke was the hardest to crack during, in the times you've been working there?
We get stuck on stuff that it just might seem so silly and easy. If you did it again the next day, you'd get a joke in 10 seconds, but sometimes you just get stuck. Often it's little things like sign jokes. Like we'll have jokes. The great thing I love about the show is that they literally put a joke everywhere there's blank space. So outside of business, we have a funny name of the business and a funny sign for the business and a funny product in the window. And so sometimes you will find, Ivy League educated, not me, but Ivy League educated geniuses sitting around a room wasting thousands and thousands of dollars as they just try to think of a name of a store or a name of a character. Sometimes it will just be like, that can't be their name. And often the result, if you looked at it afterwards, would be like, you guys took 8 hours to think of that. But that's what happens. When you try to be funny everywhere, sometimes you be unfunny everywhere.
Okay, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what, with regards to, say, new writers, what do you think new writers, what's the biggest mistake that they make today? And maybe you could advise them on.
Yes. Well, if I advise them too well, they'll take my job. So I'm trying to tank their careers. I'm trying to think, how do I tank their careers? It's a real delicate balance. It's a group dynamic, and I like to talk a lot about group dynamics, but you're coming into this room where you're going to spend 8, 12 hours with these people. And when you're new, you really want to walk this line between listening and learning and not talking too much until you have a understanding of the vibe and the mission of the show and the joke and the episode, but also not staying so quiet that you just become irrelevant. And then it becomes very hard to speak after you've established yourself as someone quiet. And so it's a really, I would say, really studying group dynamics, watching, listening to people, and just understanding how people are pitching or what kind of stuff they're pitching or saying, and trying to jump onto the train as opposed to kind of force your own train onto the track. And I know that sounds obvious, but it's not that obvious because every room has different personalities and every group has different personalities. So really just meshing well. That's my advice. Mesh well.
Okay. Mesh well. That's good
Mesh well.
advice.
Yes.
Mesh well. It could be a
Mesh
song.
well. Yes. It sounds like it. Also work the
Chart. It'll be in the
Yes.
charts next year.
Yes,
The
exactly.
charts
You
exist.
should copyright that right now.
Yeah,
Patent
I know. Yeah, it's been heard here first. So, Joel, you have an MBA, but it's not really something not common route for comedy writers. But how did your corporate thinking help you with your writing and writing better jokes?
I think it's funny because as much as we're writing jokes and we're writing this thing, it's still a product that's going to a market, which is our audience. So,
Yeah.
you don't want to think of it in that cold, hard way because it's creative and it's fun and all that stuff. But ultimately, just recognizing the factory where I work and what's the best process in the factory of watching that and breaking that down, and then hopefully maybe sharing that with people, and they can take those tenets of whatever I've learned and apply them to their factories. And then just watching the way a product goes to market and the brand and the way the brand is received in market. Like it's easy to think of this as not a business, but it's also very easy, I think, and translatable to look at it as a business and then point out to people, you're selling plungers to plumbers, but we're really not in that different of a business the way we relate to our customers and talk to our customers and
Yeah,
even
okay.
promote and position our products. So I kind of always try to watch it through that eye and then kind of share that with people a little bit.
Okay, no, that's very good. Thank you for that. You wrote the book How to Lose a Marathon, which I
Yes.
read when I was training for a marathon, by the
Oh,
way.
how did you do? Did you succeed? Did you lose? If you didn't.
I finished it.
Okay, well, if you won, you're a
I
disappointment to me. If
won.
you lost, you won. Oh, you're right.
Oh, darn it. You should have
Yes.
lost. With regards to, like, so when you wrote that book and you did a marathon, what did training for that teach you about creativity or discipline?
Definitely discipline, as you know, because you ran a
Uh
marathon, and even just the discipline to get through my book. I admire that.
huh.
I think I believe, talking about marathon specifically, it's 5% athleticism, 95% willpower. And I would even go
Mhm.
100% willpower because the point of the book also is just like finishing is the goal, not getting a
Uh-huh.
great score, a great time, pardon me. So it definitely taught me about willpower. And even writing a book is any endeavor, creative, anything is a test of willpower ultimately, because there's so many ways that we could find to stop. And then creativity, I think it was just, as I talk about in the book, I was so bored running. So I had to get creative, tricking my
Mhm.
brain to not think about running. So it was me entertaining me. So Joel
Yeah.
suddenly was writing for Joel and finding anything he could do to put the TV station in here on captivating enough to fool the rest of this idiot to keep running. So I became my greatest audience and my greatest producer of content. And somehow it all worked out and we made it through.
Well, good to both of you.
Thank you. And thank you. Yes.
You're welcome. And are you going to do another one?
I did 2.5. And I
Oh,
always say the half was not a half marathon, but it was,
right.
I ran the LA marathon and I always knew I live in LA. So I'd seen lots
Yeah.
of LA, but I ran the part of LA I didn't know. And then I was like, I'm going to grab an Uber. And I just went home. So that was my half. And I think I'm
Good man.
probably done. So
That's
that's
good.
probably
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Very good, very good.
Yeah.
Joel, what failure taught you the most as a
Oh,
writer?
being a comedy writer, and I think any writer and any creative person, and frankly, probably any person, every day is chock full of failure. I mean, I'll pitch in an average day. I'm not exaggerating. I will pitch, I'll say 75 things, maybe 100 some days, maybe 50 some days, but let's say an average of 75 things. And 7 of those will actually go to the next stage where they
Oh,
might then
wow.
be eliminated for better things.
Okay.
That's whatever, do the math. I'm not going to do the math, but it's a very, very, very high failure rate. And I think you just appreciate failure for what it is. And the
Okay.
value of, I always say the value of in a creative environment is the failures, because they just show everyone else it's okay to fail. And they will hopefully motivate somebody else to, hey, I heard one word of your long, bring bad pitch, but that got me thinking about this. And then that spins us in
Mm,
that direction. And it just keeps the machine running. It's like the oil for the machine. So failure has taught me how valuable failure is. And
yeah, okay.
I keep throwing out horrible ideas to grease the wheels.
Well, that's it. It's really good, actually. It's worth keeping that in mind. It
Yeah.
is important even in business, when people get
100%. Yep.
disillusioned.
In
So it's
life.
good to hear. In
Yes.
life as well.
When I see a horrible failure on the street, I envy them. They're doing it right.
Exactly, exactly. So here's a fun one. I'm going to ask you a few rapid fire, and I'm going to
Sure.
ask for one sentence answers. Don't know how rapid I'll be speaking because I have a cold, but the
Okay.
first one, most underrated Simpsons character.
I say Mo. Mo Sislak. He's a scuzzball. He's a lowlife, but I love him.
Oh yeah, excellent. Funniest rejected joke.
Wow, that's more than one sentence. There's
Oh,
jokes that
yeah.
are very funny and not appropriate for this medium or any other,
Okay.
but they make us laugh because they're so inappropriate. I can't think of one. How about that? How's that for an answer? I just can't. There's
That's all
so
right.
many failures. I can't think.
And one of them, and they're probably in one, is a short sentence. Oh, you'll have to
Yeah.
come back to me on that one. I'll be following up. So, one writing rule every character should use.
And well, every writing for every character, I think, is the question. And I think just really know who that character is, because if it doesn't sound like them, you don't have that character anymore. If you keep, I know these are more than one sentence. I don't care. I'm a
It's
rule
okay.
breaker. Bang. Um, but I just think if you don't know the character, you don't have a character. So reinforce the brand of that character at all times.
Okay. Okay. First script you felt, or say episode even, you felt truly proud of. Can you remember?
Great question. I feel myself, or I have felt myself getting better at this job, not better in general, but at least knowing what works in this job. I've written 42 episodes. I've written I remember writing one that I really love called Top Goon. It was about the bully becomes the enforcer on Bart's hockey team, but it just felt like it was something I really connected with emotionally because I grew up in Canada and
Oh,
I think I
yeah.
knew. So it just felt like a great script with a real emotion to it, and I've been proud of a lot. But that's one where I just felt hey, everything kind of came together. And I know I'm still talking, but
That's all right.
I only wrote that like 4 years ago. So it's like
Okay.
it's
Oh,
taken me
wow.
that long to get something that in my brain at least I can feel proud of.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So, what is the worst writing advice you ever heard?
Believe that your tongue spins gold and nobody can improve upon it. If you're not open to constructive criticism or criticism, you're not going to have the best stuff. You got to
Mm,
be open to criticism and improvement for
okay.
others.
Mm. And so, what's harder, starting or finishing?
I believe starting.
Okay.
Yeah, people
Okay.
get intimidated and don't. Just lower your
Yeah.
bar for quality.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Joel, after all these years writing comedy, what still surprises you about making people laugh? You don't need to answer that in one sentence.
Well, the great thing about laughter is that you can't control it. I mean, it's an emotion that just bursts out of your mouth, right? It's like an explosion of your mouth that you didn't see coming, and that's the
Yeah.
surprise of that's the innovation, as I always say, of comedy. But what I love is that we don't know what's going to make us laugh until we suddenly laugh, and then like, wow, that was funny. So I just find like it's always happened, but now there's so many places to take in comedy from. There's so many different versions and styles of comedy and styles of jokes that I just think it's always growing and changing. And
Yeah.
I just love that it's always something you don't know even what the next hilarious thing is going to be, and it's out there. It's going to happen to us both today. I hope that we'll laugh
Yeah,
at.
that's the joy in it. It's
Yeah.
brilliant. And Joel, I suppose we're almost coming to the end of this very fun talk. You do lots of keynote speaking engagements, and I just want to know what was your next few topics be if you were speaking to a corporate audience?
I love to talk about innovation because I've mentioned it a little bit in our talk today, but I believe creativity is innovation and even much more specifically, jokes are the perfect template for innovation. And by that
Yeah,
measure, I almost contend I'm one of the most innovative people that they might interact with because a lot of innovations every day. Team dynamics, I talked about what
yeah,
it's like in the writer's room, and I like to talk about that. And two more things. One is how AI is affecting our job and our world, and
yeah,
it's obviously an issue for everybody everywhere. And then the
yeah.
last thing is just about brand. I mean, we talked about The Simpsons been on TV for 37 years and is
Uh,
still the top-rated animated show known around the world, and has spawned theme parks and merchandise and everything else.
it's amazing.
And that's the dedication and reinforcement of that brand from its creation to its execution, I think is always very impressive. And to talk about that and how we
Absolutely.
do that, I think is something that people really connect with.
Yeah, and everyone loves hearing about The Simpsons.
Yeah.
It actually puts a smile on everyone's faces.
Yeah.
So, Joel, that really was incredible. Thanks for giving us all a peek behind one of the greatest writing rooms and The Simpsons and yourself and your how you go about your job. And so, to anyone who is watching, comment the wildest Simpsons prediction you remember in the below, and we'll share it with Joel. And listen,
Yeah.
thank you
Or give
very
me a
much.
prediction and I'll slip it in
Or
for you.
give him a prediction.
Give
Could
me
be an
wild.
it could,
We accept them as
yeah.
well. Yeah.
Oh, really? So, like,
Yeah. Sure. Why
ideas
not?
for maybe for the next Simpsons program,
Yes.
next
Yes. Yes.
episode. So, listen, Joel, thanks a million. It was really, really good to talk to you. I love working with you. I love being able to suggest you to corporate events all over Europe and wherever else. So, if anyone is interested in having Joel speak, let me know and we can get that arranged, can't we, Joel?
Yeah. 100%. Rachel's the best.
Thank you very much. Joel, you're a star. Thanks a million. Speak to you
Okay.
soon.
Take care.
Take care.